Awesome. All right, so good morning, everyone. So this is our last class. So again, just to recap, the outline is we're going to talk about school choice and school competition. Then we're going to we'll have a break. I'll get some course feedback from you guys on this, of course. It's a page where you can give me a second evaluation. And then we're going to talk about what's going to be in the final exam. I kind of previewed you already kind of like the basic structure of it, but I'll go into more detail on that. Okay. So what we talked about last class was school grants. So how are schools financed? When we talked about schools being financed from local taxes, and schools also being financed from grants from the state. We talked about the various forms that those state grants could take. So we had what were some examples of the state grants? Or like the ways of the state grants. Flat tax. Right? So we have a flat tax. What else? We have foundation grant. What was foundation grant? States for people spending insurance. That's exactly right. And then what was the third one? Guaranteed tax. Exactly. Okay. All right. So one of the, and following that, we also talked about the T2 hypothesis, that if you had enough parents, you had enough school districts, households could just sort into the neighborhoods that provided the right level of public goods and also the tax to pay for that, right? Now, when we talk about issues of school choice and school competition, so school choice is going to have to do a lot with allowing students to go wherever they want to go, and giving them the freedom to be able to do that. Because with the T2 hypothesis, one of the things that we talked about is that moving might be very costly, and there might be other sorts of frictions that come into play, right? Okay. So what we want to talk about is we want to consider what happens when we move away from the neighborhood models. What are some of the pros? Right? So the first pro is that it creates additional options. To attend schools out of district. So if you're in a really crappy district, you have the option to attend schools out of district, right? The other thing too with school choice is that if a student leaves, the student can take the funding with them. So in particular, when we talk about issues of school choice, we're going to be talking about vouchers, and also going to be talking about charter schools, where the money is going to be, with the voucher, the money is going to be given directly to a student. And so what they can do as well is, if the student leaves, take money with them. And the third thing is, if we have public schools losing enrollments because students are choosing to go to other schools, too, those schools will lose market share, and over time they can close. And so in a sense, you're bringing the competitive forces in the market to bear on the educational industry as well. So, public schools lose enrollment. Forced to close based on competitive pressure. Let me step back a bit and define two of the major vehicles that we use for school choice and school competition. And And so they're going to be charter schools, and they're going to be vouchers. So those are charter schools. What is a charter school?
So you would go like to different state, like you do it at school.
Not quite. Any of you been to a charter school? Like attended a charter school? So a charter school is a school that receives public funding, and it has a contract or a charter with some public entity. So it could be a school district, it could be a state, it could be a university. And the difference between a charter school and a public school is that the charter school has a lot more flexibility over things such as the curriculum, instruction, and the way that it operates, and its ability to hire and fire teachers as well too. And so in a sense, you can think about a charter school as being contracted by the state under a specific set of obligations to provide education. So let me put this here. So let's define something. Have you guys heard of charter schools? So charter schools are schools that receive public funding under terms specified by contract or charter with public university. So if the contract or the charter is with a public institution, public entity, for example, the state, school district, or university. And they have greater autonomy over curriculum, construction, and operations. So let me give you a couple of examples of charter schools. Okay. Let me give you some examples. Okay, everybody caught it? Any questions on the definition of charter school?
Is the autonomy specified within the contract? Is it still public?
It's still public funded, that's exactly right. That's exactly. Was that your question?
Well, it's publicly funded, so the autonomy then has to be specified within the contract.
Yeah, because in a sense, like this provides an opportunity for time exemption, so the things that would be required of public schools, for example. I don't know if I would say that it's an experiment to see what works. I think it's more of a response, right? So you have in a particular district failing schools, and the question is, we're spending money to have failing schools, and somebody comes and says, hey, I can do this better at the same price. If only you allowed to have autonomy over hiring and firing teachers, as opposed to having to go to the typical challenge or to have longer school days, for example, or to increase like the standard of discipline. So this is some examples of charter schools, and this is actually a very topical issue. So the person that's been nominated for the Secretary of Education has a history of being a huge school choice proponent in Michigan. So pushing for things like charter schools for vouchers, etc. This is one of the big questions that will come during her confirmation. To what extent have charter schools example, the charter schools. So you get, which stands for knowledge is power. Program. Let me tell you a couple of facts about KIT. So, it started in Houston. And it now has 99 schools in 20 states. And it's also yeah. And it has a total of 27,000 students. 90% of their students are minority students, and 80% are women. Here are some distinguishing features. So one is you'll see why you need a charter to run a school like this. So school runs until 5 p.m. Whereas a typical school is out around 3:15. In addition to that, they run school 2 Saturdays per month. There's an extended school year, which means a shorter summer break. And it's also what you call no excuses school. So what this means is it's very heavy on discipline. On student discipline and accountability. Say that again?
So G, what are they trying to solve?
What do you mean by that?
Popular with the parents, not so much with the students, I would guess.
So this is,
Time to get in trouble.
yeah. So let's circle back to when we started this unit, when we were looking at the role of the government in terms of education. We talked about the rationale being to prepare people for citizenship, to give them the tools that they need to earn a living, and then also to help to close some of the educational disparities. Because there's just tremendous educational disparities by race, by geography, and also by income status, right? And so when you think about these charter schools, and we just look at the composition of this charter school, particularly like it's targeting minority students and low-income students. And the idea is, if we can provide additional instruction, and so this is the longer school day in terms of hours per day and then days per week, and then obviously weeks per year. And so this is like extending school. This is extending the amount of instruction in a number of ways. And then if we can provide more accountability, like measuring progress of students in more detail, like checking things like behavioral infractions, and then we can make an impact, especially for students who are like not being served as well as they potentially could be served in the public school system. And so this is the whole idea. And so you can think about these as kind of like startups that are funded with public to address specific educational needs. And given that there's going to be a lot of heterogeneity in what these needs are, depending on what city you're in, the charter allows for that flexibility for the state or whoever the public entity is to work a better arrangement with the person that's starting the school.
So you live in like a county for wherever the kid's school was, would you pay more taxes for going to that school?
Would you pay more? So these are going to be, so the way to think about this is that oftentimes these charter schools will get around about 70% less per pupil than a public school. And so it's not necessary that your taxes are going to increase because of the presence of the charter school. And so the way to think about a charter school is really, this is a supply response, right? when we get to talking about vouchers, which are direct subsidies to the students themselves, that's going to be stimulating demand. But this is saying, can we actually supply more schools that are going to be educating, students? But it's not necessarily the case that it's going to cost more money to do this. Okay. Yeah.
Get started.
So KEP was started in 1990. Oh, I don't have the year in my bunch notes, but I can definitely go up here. Okay, and this was actually founded by former TFA teachers, Teach for America, which is a huge program. Some of you probably know Teach for America. Okay, so this is an example. And in addition to this, there are a couple others. So some others are the Harlem Children's Zone. Let me Jeffrey Canada. Harlem Children's Zone. And then also you have the Seed Academy, which is, so Harlem Children's Zone is in New York City. You guys, you can't see it here, right? Okay, I'm not gonna. But can you see this line here? Okay. So I'm going to continue from here. You also see academies that are in DC and Baltimore. One of the things that you'll notice too is charter schools tend to be concentrated in cities because there's such a huge discrepancy in terms of educational outcomes for students that are in a lot of different cities. So these are some of the major charter schools. If you just pop these into Google, like you'll get tons of hits. Newspaper articles, you'll be able to go to their website to see what it is that they're doing. They really try to create a narrative around we're different in these specific ways because we think by making these changes to the curriculum, making these changes to the way we operate the school, that's going to have an impact in terms of educational outcomes for students, right? And so, in a way, you can think about this as, so when we go back to the Tibu hypothesis, we were creating differentiation across localities in terms of like what the conditions were for the public schools that we're in. You can think about, and so that's in a sense like kind of like an extensive market, right? It's like, okay, if my district is charging a much money for education, I don't value that much, I can go somewhere else. You can think about what the charter school movement is doing is creating opportunities for households even to adjust on the intensive market. Given that I want to stay in the same district, there could be different types of schools that have different targeted programs, such that I can get what it is that I think that my child is. Maybe my child doesn't go on their school day, et cetera, and so on and so forth. And so these are like different two sides of the same coin. Okay. So let's see what I'll say about this. Okay. So what I'll do is the way that I'll organize this is to we'll first talk about charter schools and what are some of the things that we know about charter schools. So we started off by saying like what are some of the pros of school choice, right? It can create additional options for students. If the student leaves, they can take the money with them because these charter schools are going to be funded based on how many students are with them. And then also if public schools lose enrollment, this is going to create some competitive pressures on public schools.
Can you explain that second role a little more?
Yeah, so for a lot of these schools, how they're going to be funded is they're going to be funded on a per pupil basis. When we talk specifically about vouchers, and maybe what I'll do is I'll define vouchers for you. A voucher is going to be a transfer from the government to a given student, and that student can take that money wherever they go to school. And so in a sense, it's going to create a market where people can literally go with their feet using public money to patronize a school that is providing them the services that they need. All right. Okay. Okay. So, charter schools. talk a little bit about how students are enrolled in charter schools. So what you have is your parents that will sign their kids up for the school. And oftentimes these schools will be oversubscribed. Schools are often oversubscribed. And so what happens is the lotteries help to determine who's going to get access to the schools. So the school will hold the line to determine who can attend. And sometimes these like really big events, I mean, like you can come to the school or even there's a ball or there's really like it's your number paint and so on and so forth. Like parents really want that for this big. Why this particular feature is really important because of the following. It creates randomization. And so if we have a school that's oversubscribed, and then students are going to be allocated to the school based on what lottery number they got, then we know that getting into the school is random. It's kind of like dumb luck in a sense. Conditional on applying to the school, getting into the school is random. And so then we can compare what are the educational outcomes of the kids who won the lottery to the kids who didn't win the lottery. And we can use that to get at what is the actual causal effect of charter schools on educational outcomes.
Didn't have any requirements for applying, or is it open to everyone?
So the requirements for applying are going to be specified by the charter. And so that can vary from state to state in terms of like who's allowed to apply versus who's not allowed to apply, et cetera. And so again, like the results would be like conditional on applying. Like, because it might be very different in terms of who chooses to actually apply to a charter school and the people that choose to apply versus not. But what the lottery is going to do is it's going to provide us with what we call a counterfactual. So remember when we were looking at the Dale and Cooper papers about what's the returns to going to community college? And we said that we had to know, like, well, what would be your earnings if you had not gone to community college? And then we looked at people who applied to similar places and got into similar places but chose different places to attend as a relevant counterfactual. So similarly, you're going to be able to do that here. So let me tell you some results. You probably can down here. So there's a paper by Joshua Engriest and co-authors. So this had elements and co-authors that was published in 2010. And they looked at KIP and they found really strong evidence for performance improvements, especially in math for students that attended KIP. And in particular, these gains were concentrated among students who were special needs students, as well as students who were English as a second language students too. And so you see this evidence for like huge effects, or at least important effects for people that are at the margins. So they studied KIP. Find that lottery winners, and not like the state lottery, but the folks who won the lotteries that attend KIP. Experience improvements, math scores, and the improvements are especially high ESL learners. This is just English as a second language. There are a couple of other studies that I want to highlight. Another one too that's really very fascinating is Adobe and Fire, who studied the Harlem Children's Zone. And so Will Dobie is currently a professor of economics at Princeton. He and I went to graduate school together at Harvard, and then Will and Fire was our professor. And so Will was actually doing this project when we were in graduate school. So he was looking at his actually the Harlem Children's Zone, including the black-white achievement gap. And this paper received a tremendous amount of attention in the news. Jeffrey Kennedy was invited to talk with President Obama at Social Movement. And it just really created a lot of buzz around what can be done to reduce educational inequality in literacy. And so like either, this part of the course really gets us to start thinking about how do we take the ideas of economics and then use them to create policy and then create what we can effectively call policy experiments to see if they actually work, right? And so here's the idea. If you put a straitjacket on schools and you say, look, you're a public school, you have to abide by these laws that are specified by the union, you know, when we not fire these people, you have to teach this between these hours and these hours. This is what the pay scale must be for everyone, and you impose all of these restrictions. But effectively, there isn't a market, right? There isn't a market that's going to be responsive to the different needs of different consumers, who are the students, or even that's going to be responsive to the different styles of the different producers, who would be the teachers in this case, right? By creating more of a market, through creating more competition, you can actually drive more efficiency, or you can serve the segments of the market in a more differentiated way. And so that's kind of like the economic idea. Competition works in the private sector, why shouldn't it work in the public sector? And then you come, you say, well, okay, charter schools, let's see what happens. Let's build them, and after we build them, let's evaluate them. One of the things that's really fascinating about charter schools too is that they have a very strong empirical approach where everything is measured. So one of my close friends, his wife was the principal of a charter school in Massachusetts. And I mean, like the amounts of data that they had on teacher attendance, teacher performance, student attendance, parent attendance at PT meetings, and the student led lunch today. I mean, there's just like oodles and oodles of data to be able to establish relationships between what we observe of what the charter school does and student performance. And so these environments become like very great policy laboratories for trying to understand really what is the production function of a school and where are the areas where you can make the most impact for the smallest amount of money. So the Adobe Fire paper in 2000. So they looked at the Harlem Children's Zone. So what they find is that the HCZ closes the black-white achievement gap. That over a 3-year period. And it narrows the gap. And so this is like a huge deal. I mean, like this is like a really big deal. There are some other impacts as well too that don't just have to do with the educational outcomes, but that have to do with what we would call non-cognitive skills. So for females that attend Harlem Children's Zone schools, what they find is like a reduction in the probability of becoming pregnant. So that's another outcome that they find. In addition to that, males are less likely to be incarcerated. So here. on their outcomes. Females most likely to become pregnant, so or teenage pregnancies. Males less likely to be incarcerated. There for a moment. Let's talk about what are some of the problems with charter schools. Because so far it seems like, oh, this is just an amazing picture. And this is going to depend a lot on the specific charter school. It's going to depend a lot on the specific state. So I've only picked out two examples because these are two very prominent examples that are used as poster children of the charter school. But you can go to other states where the charter schools have been a failure. And so it's going to depend a lot on what's the local environment, what's the leadership that's in place, what is actually in the charter in terms of the degrees of freedom that the charter school has to operate within. And you're going to need to do like a case-by-case evaluation because it's not just getting them to have a good idea, but the implementation needs to happen in addition to that. It's about what is the environment in which you're working in as well too. There are a couple of problems with charter schools. So when we look at KIPP, right, look at all of these things that they're doing, right? Teachers have to work longer days, parents have to be willing to do this. The kids have to be on board too. And so the first question is, are they skilled, right? Can you find teachers who are willing to work 60-hour weeks, right? And can you find parents who are willing to send their kids to like a school where they are going to be held accountable? There's also like a very high turnover rate for teachers. So it's like around about 20% overall and about 40% for the teachers too. Because this, I mean, like this is running really hard. It's kind of like working here is like working at a agency. Where you have to, or like some Wall Street firm where you really go there for 2 years. You go in and it's like you're going wall to wall, day to day, just pushing really hard. The other thing too is this issue that's called cream skimming, which has to do with if you have these schools that are better, is it that they're improving the picture overall, or is it that they're just attracting the students who are going to be who are going to have the parents that are motivated to like want them to get better outcomes, and these kids may have done well anyway. One of the things that gets around this third issue, cream skimming, is this issue of the lottery, right? Because if you have a situation where a school is oversubscribed and what you're doing is you're only allowing students in who win the lottery, that's going to mitigate some of the cream skimming. However, you can still have an element of cream skimming in cases where there is no lottery because the school is not oversubscribed.